I'm endlessly fascinated and curious about the world around us, about business, about politics, about the arts, about culture, developments, social issues, and the people. Most importantly, about the people that are shaping our future. Every night, I get the opportunity to have conversations, to dive into conversations with thought leaders, with change makers, entrepreneurs, politicians, and everyday heroes who unpack the ideas and stories that I think matter to all of us. What's the future of our economy? What's the future of our country? How do we build stronger communities? What can we learn from music, theater, sports, politics, the arts? How does policy shape our real lives? What does leadership look like, real leadership in today's environment? If it's interesting and relevant and topical and we're talking about it, you'll hear about it here at 6 o'clock on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to have real conversations, in-depth conversations. These are ideas we're sharing. This is the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks for joining me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. So there's an incredible concert happening next Tuesday that I want to tell you a little bit about, but also I want to introduce you to really an engaging young lady who is an incredible violinist and conductor and has a really interesting story. Sharon Lee is joining us tonight. She is the creative director of something called the Toronto Concert Orchestra, and they've got a series of performances at the Palais Royal down on the Lakeshore. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for having me.
So let's, right off the top, tell us what's happening on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, we have a concert called Have I Ever Told You You're My Hero? And of course, that title comes from the Bette Midler song, The Wind Beneath My Wings, which I think a lot of people have a close connection to. And that is a concert that will explore heroism in many forms. There's superheroes, there are your personal heroes, and of course, musical heroes.
And then you've got, what, two more after that?
We have, after that, that's our second last concert. We have one last concert, and the last one is 007 Symphony Royale. So, as the name suggests, it's a concert dedicated entirely to music found in Bond films.
And what's the date for that?
That is August 25th.
Fantastic. At the Palais Royal, correct?
Yep.
And how does one get tickets?
At tcomusic.ca.
So why is the Toronto Concert Orchestra doing a series of concerts in the Palais Royal during the summertime? I think that, symphony is what wants to see when it's cold and wintering outside in the middle of winter.
Well, I beg to differ. I think symphony is fantastic all year round. And Palais Royal, so this series is a bit of a continuation of a series that we pitched to Casa Loma back in 2014. We started a series there. And then post-COVID, we have branched out to Palais Royal, and we really love Palais because it's right on the water. It feels like a getaway. And how often can you get away and outside of the city on a Tuesday evening? And it really feels like you've left the city. You're at some beautiful festival. You're right on the water. There's an element of fantasy that we bring in because we ask people to come dressed up on theme. So it's I'm sure this could also work in the wintertime, but there's something magical about Toronto summers, and I think it's because it's so short and everyone wants to make the most of it.
And you started the season with Elton Ron, a Elton John impersonator?
Yeah, I wouldn't call him an impersonator. He's a tribute artist of the best kind. He has so much spirit and personality and charisma, and he really, really brings those songs to life.
Now, you were telling me that this coming concert is going to have the largest orchestra on stage. Is that correct?
That's right.
How many people?
We're about mid-30s.
And what different instruments?
Oh, we have strings, so violins, violas, cellos, and bass, and then we have two flutes, two oboes, two clarinets, two bassoons. We have a flute doubling piccolo, and also an oboe doubling English horn. Horns and trumpets and trombones and timpani, which are kettle drums, and percussion and harp. So it's a big, full symphony, especially for the size of Palais Royal.
Fantastic. Sounds like the Palais Royal is going to be completely filled with music.
Yeah, it will. It will be.
And this is an original composition or composer or what?
So there's a lot on the program, but the one that I want to, yeah, the one that I wanted to highlight for you is a new piece. It's a brand new world premiere by Canadian composer. She's based in Toronto, named Liza McLellan, and it's her Zodiac Suite. And it's kind of her answer or her modern day answer to Elgar's Enigma Variations. So Elgar's Enigma Variations are each of the variations are written for someone important in his life, so a different hero of his life. And he doesn't say who they are. He just gives them initials or like, a pet name. And similarly with Liza, she goes through the zodiac signs and she has each zodiac sign for someone important in her life.
Really, that sounds fantastic. And she's
Yeah,
going to join us later on in this conversation. Is that correct?
she is trying.
Fantastic. Well, that'll
Yeah.
be wonderful. I look forward to it. So let me ask you a question. Why are you a violinist?
Oh, good question. Um, I can tell you my original story. I um my parents they're music lovers. I had never heard non-classical music until I was much older. They're very deeply rooted in classical music. My mother is a classical pianist, and she had me starting piano quite young. And we had a neighbor when I was about 5 or something who had an old violin. It was smaller than a full size. It was not the right size for me still. It was still too big. And they gave it to me just to play on, just for fun, as a toy. Because otherwise it would have, they had nothing to do with this instrument anymore. So I had this instrument and I fell in love. I was obsessed as a 5-year-old with this foreign object that could play different sounds. And, I couldn't play in tune. I didn't know how to, actually play the instrument, but you can pluck it, you can, slide notes on it. You could do all these things that you can't do on a piano. So I immediately took to the violin, and I was very fortunate that the school that I was at offered group classes. So that's how I started in a really informal setting with friends. And then much later, for my 7th birthday, my parents got me private lessons, and that was the best day.
Now, why the violin versus the viola or the cello or something else?
Well, that instrument happened to be a violin, but I almost became a violist. So I had a violin teacher when I was in like grade 8, grade 9, around that time. And those are, quite formidable years. And I wanted to audition for the local youth orchestra. And the local youth orchestra here is a very high level. It's the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra. So my teacher he strongly suggested that I play viola instead of violin. So I
Why?
played
Why?
viola
Why?
for
Actually,
the
stop a second. I apologize. There's a lot of people that probably don't know the difference. Take a second to describe the difference if you could.
Sure. Violin is 4 strings. It's the highest stringed instrument that you hear in an orchestra, and there are so many violins in a symphony orchestra that they are broken up into 2 sections. There's first violins and second violins, and the range of the violin is huge. So first violins usually play like about a fifth to an octave higher than what the second violins are playing. And interestingly, the ratio of music students is even higher for violin. There are so many music students studying the violin as opposed to the viola. So the viola, the instrument itself is a bit larger. It's somewhere not exactly between a violin and a cello. It plays a fifth lower, still 4 strings, and especially as younger students, there aren't so many who gravitate towards it naturally on their own. Um, because the instrument's larger and it's a bit more cumbersome to learn. So, and also in an ensemble, you're not playing the more recognizable parts like a violin or even a cello would. So, a cello often is sitting lower in the register, playing the bass lines along with the bass, or has, if they're not playing with the bass, they have some really beautiful, juicy tunes in a symphony orchestra. Whereas the viola plays very much a supportive role and a harmonic presence. So if you're thinking of it as two guitars, you could almost think of it as violin one as a lead guitar, violin two as a rhythm guitar, and then viola is almost like the synthesizer that fills in harmonies.
And the cello is the bass?
And cello is the bass.
Really? That's fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that. So then why did he recommend you do the viola, and why did you choose not to?
The viola. So I did play viola for a full year leading up to the audition, and I'm really glad that I got that opportunity. But he suggested that I play viola because the competition for violin is so strong, and for this particular youth orchestra at that time, I was quite young. I was in grade 9, and the youth orchestra is meant for players up to age 25. So I'd be competing against all of the Toronto violinists up to age 25, and he wanted me to
Sounds
have
like it was a good recommendation.
yes and no. So about a week before my audition, I had been practicing with the recordings, and to a 13-year-old's ear, you can't hear a thing. You can't hear. It's so hard to hear the viola. And I told him, I'm like, I really don't think I'm gonna love playing viola in orchestra. And could I please do the audition on violin instead?
And you did?
So I did.
And did you get in?
I did.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Barely, but I made it in.
And how long were you part of the Toronto Youth Orchestra?
Oh, a very long time, like 4 years.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great story. And I understand that you were part of a string quartet, and you've got lots of other stories about taking courses in the United States and at Juilliard and at the University of Toronto. And so I think we're going to chat about a little bit. But I also understand that the composer of one of the pieces that you mentioned might be joining us. So we're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2. We're now welcome to join to the call to our conversation Liza McLellan, who is the composer of one of the pieces that's going to be premiered at this event. Liza McLellan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So tell me, this is a piece that's sort of mirrored after some famous historical piece, and it's got 13 different parts to it or something like this. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those, a bucket list piece that I've kind of always wanted to try my hand at doing. I love the zodiac. It's a lot of fun if you're one of those people that is into all the different star signs and things. So I wrote a piece inspired by all the signs of the zodiac. There are 13 movements. I thought I was going to be writing 12. And then when I was speaking to Sharon, our music director for the TCO, she said, well, didn't you know there's a 13th? And that happens to be my star sign. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to be writing 13 movements then. So the little known 13th sign is called Ophiuchus, and that will be the finale of the suite, which is kind of cool.
And is it different instruments on the different pieces in this 13 part melody?
Yeah. So this piece, there are, if you thought of each movement kind of like a different person, a different personality, a different character. And I tried to find a way to show these different personalities. And so I wouldn't use the same instrumentation every single time. There are a few movements that are written for the full orchestra, all the winds, all the brass, all the percussion. But some of them, like Gemini, was just for the woodwinds and the strings. And then Capricorn is just for the brass, and then there's some strings. Yeah, it plays around a lot. It's not any one kind of genre of music. There's some jazz, there's some kind of Mozart inspired stuff. There's very modern stuff. There's pop stuff. It's kind of a mixed bag, to be perfectly honest. But that's how people are. I mean, we're all different characters, so
And you've
that's
and you've sort of what named or somehow patterned each one of these 13 pieces after one of your own heroes? Each one of
yeah.
them a different family member or friend?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was I think in discussions with Sharon, I was telling her, I'm writing this piece. It's inspired by people that are important to me. And so that attached a person to each movement within the suite. And she said, "Oh, that's really cool. We're doing this Heroes concert theme, next year, and this would probably be a really good fit." And I went, "Wow, that's kind of serendipitous." So yeah, each movement is inspired by somebody that's carried me in life. Some teachers, family, friends, all important people. Just to me, it's not like I've written a piece to and Mother Teresa or anything like that. They're all just regular, everyday people. But I think sometimes it's the regular, everyday people that make the biggest differences in your life anyway.
How do you compose? Do you compose like on one instrument, on several instruments? How do you actually compose a something for an orchestra?
For a whole orchestra, well, I'll tell you, it's a labor of love for me. I'm not trained as a composer. I didn't go to school for that. I went to school to learn to play the cello. But like anything else, when you go to school and you're studying, you learn to you learn the language in which you are studying, right? So for me, I was learning about a lot of music and how to play it, and so you start to pick up this sort of language. And so for me, though not officially trained, what I do is I sit down at a piano and I just bash away at things until I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of nice. And I write that down because I have the training to be able to write down stuff on paper or on my computer because I have a computer program that helps me. So I put the ideas in and away you go,
Zadie.
just
Let me ask you a question, and let's broaden this up to bring Sharon into the conversation as well. The whole evening is about heroes. I did two shows last week on heroes, both modern heroes as well as the movie The Odyssey, obviously Homer's poem, and about heroes. And the conversation sort of stemmed around the definition of heroes has changed fairly dramatically over time. As you come away from either composing this one piece with 13 different parts to it and or sharing the whole evening, has your thinking about what makes a hero changed at all?
I think my thoughts about, what makes a hero was I've poured my ideas into the programming here. So, like for example, we have Sibelius's Finlandia, which is such a heroic piece. It's nationalist heroic, right? It's the pride of a people. And it's such an important piece for Finland and as they establish their identity and that's one type of heroism. And then, there's also like the Marvel universe. I have Captain Marvel on there, written by the woman composer Pinar Toprak. And of course, the current day superhero. We have Spider-Man. I wanted to include two of those, but I really wanted to, and then we have a collection of westerns called that has been called All My Heroes Were Cowboys, and that was written by the late Bobby Harriet, and that was written for our founding artistic director Carrie Stratton, and that's kind of what started this evening, this concert, and this idea of, I was thinking about who are my heroes and who are heroes. And at this moment of, wait a minute, the world right now, the way that things are going with all the like geopolitical conflict and there are a lot of people struggling right now. I think we really need to latch on to who we think are our heroes and celebrate small celebrate all the small like championships. So and the story that popped up in my head was one that I read during at the very beginning of the war on Ukraine, and it was about a blogger who was getting ready to flee as their hometown was being destroyed, and everything was just, they woke up one morning and it was things were just gone, right? Like flatlined, decimated. And there was this bakery, and the bakery was also like obviously hurt, but the baker was in there making cake, and with, what may be the last of their ingredients. And this blogger stops at the bakery and, buys himself a slice of cake. And the baker gives him a cup of coffee, and they stand there at the counter having a slice of cake together and a cup of coffee, knowing that things are not going to be the same for a long time. And it's these small moments, I think in that moment, they were each other's heroes. And that's the kind of spirit that I wanted to bring to this concert. Because, we love music, and music is a healing medium, and it can be a balm for so many things, but so are the audiences who show up. They are the heroes of the arts field. So these celebrating each other, that's and the people that you need to like make it through the day. I think those are the heroes.
Was it tough, Sharon, to find somebody that could play the glockenspiel?
No, it's not tough at all. It's a standard for our percussion instrumentalists.
I don't think maybe I have. I'm not sure if I've ever heard a glockenspiel being played, maybe other than on a Harry Potter movie.
Oh, I'm sure you have. It's like a smaller xylophone with a very resonant, round, beautiful sound. It's like sounds like crystal glassware.
Crystal glassware. That sounds like fun. When and where this event is happening and how one can get tickets.
This is Tuesday, August 18 at 8 o'clock at Palais Royale, and we can get tickets at tcomusic.ca.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Sharon Lee, the creative director of the orchestra and a violinist, and Liza McLellan, who is the composer of one of the main pieces of this show about heroes. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Real pleasure for me to have Sharon Lee, who is the creative director of the Toronto Concert Orchestra, with us tonight, and Liza McLellan, who is a composer of one of the pieces that's going to be showcased, premiered at this event that's happening on Tuesday at the Palais Royal. Sharon, I want to sort of take a step back, if I could. You told us a little bit about how you were given a violin at age 5, and then you were challenged by somebody to play the viola, and then you ended up playing the violin in the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra for a couple of years. Dedicating your life to music, I would have thought, is a pretty big decision. Tell me, what were the highs and what were the lows? You went to Juilliard. Lots of us have heard about Juilliard. You went to some master's program in the United States. You did a music degree at U of T. You've traveled the world with a string quartet. What are the highs and what are the lows?
Oh, there are so many. I think a career in music is like a very volatile marriage. At least that's what I imagine it to be. The highs are so high when I'm playing a concert and things are going the way that I wished them to go. And everything's falling together and we're no longer playing instruments, but we're really creating music. That is the best high ever. And, that could happen in a small concert. It can happen in a huge hall. It can happen at Carnegie Hall. It can happen at a bar. These are the moments that we live for. And then, the lows. the lows can be very deterring from the field. The lows are, when you start out, there's so little money. There is so little money, and you really have to work the ranks to and pay your dues to these terrible paying gigs to work your way up to the better work that's available. So yeah, those are the highs and the lows in a
You told me
nutshell.
a story about being in your bed only one day of a month. Tell me about that experience.
That's right. So before I was in a quartet with Liza, I was in another quartet way back when, and we were all in. All the eggs were in this one basket. We rehearsed 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that was, and then on top of that, we were playing concerts. So we really treated it as a full-time job without the salary. And I there were and we worked so hard that we could only be good, right? Or there was a baseline of skills and ability that we hit, and we started touring, and we were touring with companies like Jeunesse Musicale and other run out concerts that we would book on our own. And we also we were invited to festivals in Germany. We did a competition in Australia. We did festivals in the United States as well, and at Aspen. We were fellows and all these things. And I remember just being so exhausted all the time. I love traveling, but like with everything else, I love things in moderation. So with all this traveling and all of the touring, there was one month, as I was telling you earlier, I was at home in my apartment. All my plants had died. And I was lying in bed realizing that I've only slept in my bed one night that month. And it's impossible to keep relationships and friendships alive when you can't be present because you're always on the road. And the only people in your life end up being these three other people. So that was a big wake up call for me. That this was definitely a lifestyle and career that I had worked so hard for and had chased and I had romanticized. And once I got there, I realized I enjoy houseplants.
You said something to the effect of you had to be good. I had a dance teacher that had a sign on the wall once that said something to the effect of amateurs practice till they get it right, professionals practice until they can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
Is there a line in your experience, education from a mentor, etc., that resonates with you, Sharon, that
Oh,
inspired you?
a line like that, that's a great line. I'm gonna start using that. Um, you drill it in until it's no longer an option to make a mistake. And then you learn all the other parts. It's not a one-liner, sorry, and I'm not that slick, but you drill in all the other parts that your neighbors are playing as well, so that if anything happens to their parts, you can cover some of it. And that's something
Good
that we,
Good
yeah.
team play. That's fantastic. Liza, we heard this story before you joined from Sharon about how she was given a violin when she was 5 years old, how she was challenged to play the viola versus the violin, going on to Juilliard and U of T, and I can't remember some university where you did a master's in the United States. Tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get started? What challenged you? What were your highs and lows?
Oh, it's uh I started when I was 4 because I come from a musical family. My dad is a bass player professionally, and he had a colleague who also taught Suzuki cello, and she had this tiny little baby cello that had come available, and she said, "Oh, do you think your daughter would like to try this?" And I just loved it. And my punishment if I didn't behave myself at home was I wasn't allowed to practice cello. It's like, I wish I had that problem with my own child. Anyway, um, and yeah, so that I got a very early start playing, and I went through a rocky patch when I was in high school. I almost quit the cello and wanted to become a jazz bassist. Brent Giglio. I grew up in Saskatchewan, so
So we were told by
Canada.
Sharon earlier that the violin
think
is
maybe
the high, similar to the lead guitar. The viola is the rhythm guitar, and the cello is the bass guitar. Is that a fair representation of the cello
Is that a question for Sharon or for me?
for you?
Oh, yeah, yeah. If this was a rock band, yeah, cello would sort of be the bass guitar for sure. And that's actually kind of how I composed. So maybe we weren't clear about this, but Sharon and I played in a quartet for many, many years. So after I finished going to school in Toronto, um, and then I did my master's degree in London, came back to Toronto, and Sharon and I and two other musicians, Emily Howe, Moira Burke, started up this crazy Deva quartet. And it was the thought behind that was we were going to be a rock band, not so much a classical string quartet, but a rock band. And we played electric strings and we had a drummer, and it was very much like the violins were the electric guitar, um, or the vocalists, and then Moira was like rhythm guitar on viola, and then I was the bass on cello. So yeah, it totally works.
God, I'd love to hear that sometime. Is it available on YouTube or on iTunes or anywhere?
Yeah, you can
Everywhere.
find all kinds of art crazy stuff. It's all over YouTube and Spotify, and yeah.
Under what name?
It's Deva Quartet. So it's DEVAH Quartet.
DEVAH Quartet. We're going to have to check it out. What was the high and what was the low in your musical career, Liza?
Well, you know what? For me, I loved touring. One of the highs for me was I toured with another quartet called Quartet of Gelato. And we toured Russia, we toured Japan, we toured China. I loved being on a train and going through Siberia. It was crazy. And some of the audiences, you'd play for thousands of people, or you'd play for some diplomats. Like there'd be 12 people and you'd put on a concert. I just love performing. I love what I do. Basically, I think my job is to just make people have a nice time. That's that's all. Give people something to feel, something to think about, enjoy a nice evening. I think that's the best thing music can do. I think so. For me, highs are just sharing the good energy with people. And then the lows is like, again, it's being on the road and touring and all the work. And do you get paid for all the hours that you are working? Not really. It's being a musician is truly a labor of love. And but when you get back that love from the audience, when you're up on stage doing what you love to do, it makes it all worth it, I think.
I had the pleasure and honor of being part of the choir for the Hallelujah Chorus on Easter Sunday at my church, and practiced for more than a month beforehand. It was a very challenging piece, and I'm a tenor, I guess, but the tenor piece is very high, so I had to find my falsetto, they said, which was kind of challenging. What was most interesting to me was it was so much different than singing either by myself or with one other person. It was very challenging being part of a choir where everyone is singing very different parts, and then there's pauses, and you got to wait until the other part is finished their piece before you start. You can't it's everything is really intertwined. And when we practiced, part by part, it was very disjointed and it didn't sound great. But when the whole thing came together, it was absolutely beautiful. Is that what it's like being part of an orchestra?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and especially for the inner voices like second violin and viola, your part on its own kind of sucks. Because it's not written to be played on its own. They're meant to be complementing or supporting something else. So I'm sure like second oboe, if you heard it on its own, just sounds like a strange collection of notes. And then you put it together with the first oboe part and it becomes magic. It's really cool.
Liza, when you're composing that, how do you do that? How do you pick these different parts to all come in at different times and do different things?
It's trial and error too. I don't magically know what's going to sound good right away. I have to try things out, and I use a program that plays back, so I can write something, and then I can listen to it and be like, "Oh, that sounded good," or "That was a terrible idea," or whatever. My piece actually, because I played an orchestra since I was very young, um, something that I do know 100% is that the musicians that make up an orchestra are all excellent. And a lot of them are dying to play a solo moment because we are always in a group collective. And so it was important to me in this suite to give some of the lesser heard instruments a voice. So, for example, Virgo, there's a huge bass solo at the beginning of it. Bass doesn't often get featured. It maybe gets Carnival of the Elephant, Carnival of the Animals, gets the elephant movement, right? And that's a very famous melody for bass, but that's one of how many? Two famous melodies for bass?
If that, yeah.
Yeah. So there's things like that throughout the suite where I'm trying to give each instrument, especially, a moment to shine and have a solo on top of or being supported by the rest of the orchestra.
This has been fun chatting with you two today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sharon, remind us, please, you've got two concerts coming up, what the titles of the concerts are, what the dates, what the location, and how people can get tickets.
Sure thing. Have I Ever Told You You're My Hero? That is on August 18. And 007 Symphony Royale, that is August 25th. Both concerts are at 8 p.m. They're both at Palais Royale, and tickets are at tcomusic.ca.
tcomusic.ca. And remind us the name of the string quartet, the rock string quartet we got to go check out on YouTube.
That's our quartet's called Deva Quartet.
Spell it.
Devah.
And if people are just interested in the Toronto Concert Orchestra and what you've got going on in the fall, is there a website they should go to?
Yep, it's tcomusic.ca. We post everything that we do on there.
You guys are wonderful. Look forward to hearing your music and a sold out performance and a beautiful evening. And the premiere of Liza, what's your piece called? I should ask.
It's called the Zodiac Suite.
The Zodiac Suite, the premiere of the Zodiac Suite at a show about being a heroes, and then another show about 007. Sounds like a fun way to end the summer. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videos go up on my website, briancrombie.com, on social media, on podcast servers, on YouTube channel as soon as the radio show gets broadcast to air. And if you're not busy on Tuesday, check out Palais Royal and the Toronto Concert Orchestra. Good night, everybody.